thought a lot about the MBA degree and what it does for you. In a sense, when you come into the MBA, you've already decided or specialized in something. There are people who've done engineering and then come into MBA, or people who've done commerce, economics in my case, and so on. So I think an MBA to me is more of a rounding off degree. Do you really learn anything new? Of course, there are some things you learn new. For those of us who didn't come from a commerce or an accounting background, at least to know how to read a balance sheet and so on. But specifically, I think what the MBA does is it makes you more of a generalist, which is, I think, what an MBA should do. So it gives you a sense of, what is business in a very holistic way. Obviously in those 2 years, you're not getting really in-depth into anything. Yes, we specialize in marketing and we specialize in finance, and, there's a little bit more to it. But a lot of it is fairly practical and things that you can, pick up along the way. I do feel there is, in retrospect, there is a large chunk which is not covered in the current MBA syllabus, which really has to do with, things like, work ethic, how conscientious are you? Every organization is talking about culture and values and so on, but we don't talk a lot about that in an MBA curriculum, if you like. So there are, I think, in my mind, some missing links. It's not just about the MBA course. I also think that the education system that we have in India, you do your undergrad or you do your engineering and straight away you get into an MBA, actually doesn't make any sense, because you've never seen the inside of an organization. At least now, the youngsters have more options. So, and there are increasingly more and more people who are taking time off after their, undergrad studies to work a while and then go ahead with an MBA. But, by and large, the bulk of students in India, we go through school, we go through college, we go through MBA, and then we start working. Personally, that model, I don't think, is a great model if you want to ultimately end up in business. I do believe what a lot of the universities do overseas, which is insist on at least 3 to 5 years of work experience, makes a lot of sense. When we are talking about a course in business management. So I would strongly recommend that, if it's not a requirement by the institutes, if individuals can at least think of doing something, getting inside an organization, whether it is an NGO, a commercial enterprise, or a government enterprise, or whatever. I think it's good to know how things work before you get into the mode of, looking at case studies where you're suddenly elevated to being the CEO of the company and you actually have very little idea of how the thing works. So that would certainly be, I think, a big value add if institutes started looking at it that way, and certainly if students started looking at it that way. You either have to be a really good marketing person or a great finance person or a good OR person. But, you've picked up your finance and operations research either in whilst doing your CA or at one of the institutes of technology. So what an MBA is doing is really rounding off a lot of that. Now, in that rounding off, a lot is spoken about in terms of, your collaborative behavior and can you work in a team and so on. And there's very little exposure to that. We are doing individual assignments. Some of it is group work. So really, you are in a sense quite bookish, or you are technically you understand concepts, but team behavior is not something that we grow up with in India. Everything is very individual. It's your individual marks, your individual grades, which will get you into a college or an institute or whatever. And you realize that in organizations, that individual contributor is only a very small part, unless you're in a very specialized function where you can continue being an individual contributor. Most of us eventually work in teams, we manage teams, we work in cross-functional setups, we today work, across the globe. And I think that sensitivity, the cultural sensitivity, the empathy that you require to work in a team, the wisdom to know how to work collaboratively, the intuitive side, all of that is completely missing in the MBA education today.